Today's video, we're going to have a look at growing Cordyceps militaris at home. We've got all this stuff we're going to need laid out in front of us. Cordyceps militaris, grown slightly differently from other mushrooms I've done videos on. We're going to use the brown rice tech and growing in jars. So we've got brown rice, we've got 5 250ml mason jars. Now Porgy has got the basic ingredients we're going to be using for Cordyceps broth, which is what we put with the brown rice in order to help it grow, and the recipe for the substrate here. Now what we're going to use to make the broth, we need nutritional yeast, gypsum, peptone, vitamin powder. This is basically ground up multivitamins, some light malt extract and dextrose, and we're going to mix that all together to make a broth in 1000 milliliters or 1 litre of boiled water. So if we start off with, we'll put in the light malt extract. So I'm going to use my little jug here to measure out 10 grams of light malt extract. Let's see what we've got there. We've got 5, 13 there, a bit too much. Take a little bit out. 11.8, 10.2. Well, I got 10.31. That's fine. And then we'll put that into our boiled water. Right, next thing we are going to measure out is our nutritional yeast flakes. Again, we need 10 grams of nutritional yeast flakes. So we just zero the scales. There we go, we got 10 grams of nutritional yeast flakes, and pop them in the 1 litre of boiled water. And the final 10 grams ingredient is going to be dextrose. So we'll pop 10 grams of dextrose in our measuring jug. 7, 8, 9, and there we go, 10. And again, dextrose into our broth jug. Now the other little things we're going to put in, gypsum. We're just going to put 1 gram in. Now I've got a little measuring spoon here, which is 1 gram, it's a 1/4 teaspoon measurer, and that's 1 gram of gypsum. Now all these different ingredients we're putting in now are going to help the cordyceps grow. The gypsum gives it calcium. And then we popped a gram of peptone in, and then just 1 gram of multivitamin powder. Right, now they're all ready to put in the blender. Just get these things out of the way. And we're going to blend that up to thoroughly mix them together. So we take the top off the blender, pour everything in, just swirl around to make sure we get everything in there. Perfect. Now we give that a little blend, make sure it's all completely thoroughly mixed up. I think we'll say that's done. And we're now going to pour that into our mason jar, and that is ready to use in the next stage when we are going to make the brown rice substrate. Right, so there we go. So that's the broth made. And we're now ready to move on to the next stage of making the brown rice substrate to put in the jars. Right, going on to the next stage of what we need to do next is the making of the substrate, which is going to go into our 250 milliliter mason jars. So we can see we need 35 grams of brown rice in each of our jars. So if we zero them, we are going to weigh out 35 grams of brown rice. That's 15, 32, 35. Looking good. Right, we'll just do the next one. Right, I'll just do 2 of these and then we'll do the rest later. So we want 35 grams brown rice. Now, found this recipe after doing lots of experimentation with various different ratios and stuff. This one seems to provide perfect hydration of the brown rice after it comes out of the pressure cooker. Now, we're going to put in 50 millilitres of Cordyceps broth. I've got my super massive syringe here, and we're going to give that a nice swirl round. In fact, what we'll do is we'll give it a suck up and we'll wash it round. That's perfect. Right, we need 50 millilitres. So we've got 50 millilitres there, and we shall pop that into our brown rice. There's one. Give that a wash round. And 50 millilitres into our brown rice. Now I'm going to do, sorry, we just pop the lids on them. There's one, and there's 2. Right, they're ready to be pressure cooked. Now you can see from what Porg's got over there, pressure cook them for 35 minutes at 15 psi. Now that is really something that I've worked on quite a bit. If you do it under 35, not cooked. If you do it over 35, you can get a little bit mushy and the rice starts to break down a bit. So I've found 35 mins, 15 psi seems to be the best length of time to cook it for. Right, so I'm going to carry on doing these ones. We'll come back in a minute and we'll have a look at pressure cooking them. So I've finished making up the substrate jars, and we are now going to look at pressure cooking them. We just finished topping up the pressure cooker with some boiling water, and then we'll be ready to put the substrate jars in. Now before we put them in, I think as always, just give them a little slight turn to so they're not completely tightly screwed on. Got a bit of foil over the top, which is just protect your filter from getting too wet, damaged. So we put a bit of foil over each one, and then we can load them into the pressure cooker. And as I say, we're going to do 35 minutes, 15 psi. That should give you a really, really well hydrated, well cooked, and perfect substrate for growing our cordyceps on. I'm going to pop the lid on and wait for it to get up to Pressure. Now, as always, we just pop the lid on the pressure cooker. I'm going to leave it for a few minutes just to vent steam out of the valve before we pop the lid on. And I say we're going to do it for 35 minutes, 15 psi. So we'll come back a bit later on once this has cooked. We'll have a look at unloading them, and we will go on to the next stage of what we need to do next. So the pressure cooker has been on for 35 minutes. We've took it off the heat, let it cool down, and we're just going to open up and see what we've got. Right, the lid off. And let's see what comes out. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you can see now we've got 5 jars of our Cordyceps substrate. And what we're going to do with these now is we're going to leave them on the bench here to cool down. Obviously they've got a room cool down to, well, at least room temperature, and then we'll go on to the flow hood and we'll have a look at how we inoculate with the Cordyceps liquid culture. Slightly different from doing some normal inoculations. Cordyceps doesn't really like spreading a lot with its mycelium, so we need to use quite a bit more liquid culture per jar than we would normally do. So we'll just let them cool down and then we'll come back to them and go on to the next stage. Right, we're back in front of the flow hood now. As I say, we had the substrate that we've already made, the brown rice substrate, has cooled down nicely, and we are now ready to inoculate with our Cordyceps liquid culture. I'd say this is one called Cordyceps 5A, quite like this one. It produces lots of nice orange fruit. So as always, we're going to start by just giving the injection port a little bit of a wipe with 70% isopropanol wipe. We've already wiped down and cleaned up the flow hood as always. Just give those injection ports a little wipe. Now we're going to get our syringe, open up into the airflow, needle again open up into the airflow, pop that on the top. And now I also said earlier on that Cordyceps doesn't really like spreading through the substrate like a lot of other mycelium does, so we need to use quite a bit more liquid culture per substrate jar than normal. Now I'm going to use 10 milliliters. I know a lot of people say use a bit more, but with my 250 milliliter mason jars of substrate, if we put any more than 10 mils in, substrate will get a lot wetter. So what we're going to do, we're going to pop our needle through our injection port, and we are going to add the liquid culture in a circular motion around the edge first, and then round and round the inside. So we're aiming to cover the entire substrate with a layer of liquid culture. That should be okay. Now we take that one out, and then we're going to give that a little flame sterilisation before we use it in the next one. So we're going to draw up another 10 milliliters of liquid culture. And this time, again, we're going to go round the edge and round, spiral motion, so we've got all of the rice covered with our liquid culture. And then these are going to be stored in the dark, warm place for about 3 to 6 days. Now you've really just got to keep an eye on these. What we're looking for is a nice layer of white mycelium forming across the rice. Then we're going to move them out of the incubation cupboard and we'll put them into a little chamber and get them ready to fruit. Now I'm going to get ahead and do the other 3 jars we've done here, and we'll come back in a bit and have a look at what happens when where they've been in the incubator for a couple of days. So once we've had our cordyceps in the dark for a couple of days and they've gone fully colonized, we're going to put them into a fruiting chamber. Now what I'm going to use here is a large plastic box. We've got some monotub filters on the side, and we're going to pop all of our various cordyceps strains into our fruiting chamber. Now they need to be kept, I've got them at 18 degrees at the moment. Anything a bit hotter than that or a bit warmer, they don't fruit very well, so we're going to pop them all in here. Now keeping the temperature at 18 degrees by using a little heat mat underneath the little rack in the tub, and I've got the little Inkbird temperature sensor here which turns on the heat mat to keep it, turns it on and off to keep it at 18 degrees. Now light is important as well, so what we're going to do, we're going to pop the top on here, and we've got a little grow light here which is set to come on 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and this is where we need to keep our cordyceps now to put them into fruiting conditions. And I'll have a look in a minute at some examples of various stages of colonization as we move towards successful fruiting. So we're just going to look at some examples of colonization of cordyceps. So these 2 here, they've been in the incubation cupboard in the dark for about 6 days, and you can see we've got a nice white mycelium right across the substrate. Now we don't want to leave them in too long, otherwise the mycelium will start becoming very thick and it then becomes a bit more difficult to fruit. Now if we go on to the next 2, you can see here these have been in the cupboard, sorry, in the fruiting chamber. You can see we've now starting to get some nice orange colouring in the base of the substrate, so that means everything's going well there. And then if we move on to the next one, you can see that we're starting to get, might be a bit difficult to see on the camera, we're starting to get a bit of an orange tinge on the top of the substrate. And then if we go on to the final one here, this is what we are working towards. We are going very, very orange now, and we're actually starting to see cordyceps pinning in the substrate. Now these are going to take quite a while now to fruit, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish the video here now, and we'll come back and do an updated video once these have gone into full fruiting mode, and we'll have a look at harvesting them and seeing what we can do with them once we have picked them.